following is an encore presentation of Moral Side of the News. This episode originally aired on May 17th. Hello and welcome to season 75 of Moral Side of the News. That's right, it was May 14th, 1952, a Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. that this show debuted right here on WHS television. Of course, it aired for 4 years before that on WHS radio. We get together each week. We talk about the top stories of the day from a moral, religious, and ethical perspective, and the show is going strong 75 years later, and we celebrate that today. We'll get to more of that in just a minute, but first, we start, as always, by introducing our panel, a distinguished panel: Reverend Clay Calloway, West Louisville Ministers Coalition; Father Joe Graffis, Archdiocese of Louisville; Reverend Sally McLean, Christian Church Disciples of Christ; Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School; and Rabbi Emerita Gelia R. Rooks with the Temple. I'm Sean Kalin with the WHS Crusade for Children, and we begin this week with the state-mandated changes in the new JCPS school board.
Shake them up.
A JCPS shakeup from the state. 7 board members down to 5 to represent the newly drawn district map. The realigned members were chosen at random by drawing a name from a jar, a change that came from Frankfurt.
The General Assembly drew these districts and determined these districts.
For the rest of the year, board members Taylor Everett and Linda Duncan are without a district, members at large.
We have 7 members until the end of the year. The new election in November will determine the 5 members that will return.
So panel, your thoughts. Have been covering JCPS and the challenges over the past 2 years. What do you make of the latest development that's mandated by the state? How do you see this playing out ultimately, good or bad, for the kids of Jefferson County?
What's the point of being mandated by the state? I'm presuming the citizens of Jefferson County have the intelligence to run the Jefferson County School Board. I don't see anything positive coming from that. First of all, there are 121 counties in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and all of those counties have their own problems and their own issues with education, and I think it's sad and pointless that this came to pass.
I mean, I think, as Stan said, I'm just curious, what's the purpose? Is it to save money? Well, they don't get paid. But it seems like a lack of representation when we have so many, students, 90,000 students in JCPS all over a county. Why would we want to have less representation? I never got that reason for it, so I don't know whether it's helpful or not. It's going to put more pressure on the people that are representing these districts, and it'll be interesting to see who gets elected and who doesn't.
I just can't imagine why, first of all, cutting down the numbers. Here you have these people who are willing to serve and try to really make a difference for the benefit of all our kids. And second of all, it boggles my mind to think that I would represent, or someone would represent, a district in which they do not live and don't understand all the particular ins and outs and all the nuances. And as Rabbi Miles said, each district has its own challenges, its own problems and issues, whatever eloquent words you used. But it has never been explained such that I could understand it. I wish our panel member, Corey Schull, were here. I bet he could have shed some light on this. Maybe not.
My only thought is that an organization is only as good as its leadership. And I only know one person on that panel, and I happen to deeply respect him. So I'm certain that most of the people are going to do their best to represent their areas of Jefferson County. But there has been so much in the news about what's going on in Jefferson County and the complexity and how large an organization is. So I'm hoping that they will be able to resolve some of these issues pretty soon.
Well, I mean, the Bible says God is not the author of confusion. It seems to be more of confusion connected with it, and the motivation behind the state mandating the board in Jefferson County to be district to be reconfigured is suspicious all by itself. Apparently, the state, the board, Louisville board, sued the state to prevent them from doing some things with redistricting and so forth, and they won that case, from what I understand. So this is yet another retaliatory, in my view, retaliatory move by the state to manipulate Jefferson County, to get their hands around the enormous machine and budget in Jefferson County schools. The rationale, of course, would be to make Jefferson County like all the other districts. Well, Jefferson County is nowhere near like all the other districts, so you can't use that argument because it's not like any other district. No other district can remotely compare to Louisville, not even Lexington for that matter. So, so it's just more confusion, an opportunity to do things in upheaval in a district that has already had its challenges. It always has, always will, no matter who the superintendent is, no matter who the board makeup is. It's always had its challenges in one form or another, and it's not going to help the student outcomes. That should be the #1 goal of anything they decide to do or not do with the school district. So this does not be something that help that effort at all. So that's a concern.
I wonder, I mean, my suspicious nature sometimes, you know, we've had 2 black representatives on the school board. How these districts were redone, does that eliminate one of the black districts? I don't
eliminate
know.
one of the predominantly black districts, from what I understand. They actually have technically 3. So those persons that remain as school board members representing districts, they may or may not represent the districts they're running for in November. So they have to have to make a decision by June 2nd, from what I gather, before they can get back in the race to run. So that's only like 2 or 3 weeks away. So a lot of what is happening is time sensitive. That requires the board members, if they intend to run, to file. They don't know what it's going to look like in those districts. So it's really kind of upheaval. It's creating unnecessary pressure, I think, for the district. And then you have a new superintendent. We happened to have interviewed him on our radio show last week. I'm very encouraged by Dr. Yearwood. I think he's the man for the hour. But he can only do so much, and this new change, from what I understand, is going to give more power to the superintendent, which could be good, and I don't know. But anyway, just more confusion, and confusion does not translate to anything good for the students.
Please.
Please, Gail, go.
I just was trying to, right now the word redistricting means something very particular,
Oh, it does.
something that is
It
very,
resonates.
very concerning to me. And so I was trying to look beyond that. Like, let's, in my mind, use a different word so it doesn't carry all the, for me, negative baggage of what this country is doing. And I really tried to move around that or beyond that or whatever, but I don't think, I mean, not that I follow it so carefully, but I care, and I don't think that they have made their case as to why this was done, how this was done against the wishes of the population of Jefferson County, and then the court case, which I thought they lost.
They did.
So why is it going forward? I mean, the whole thing is just...
Well, it's not going forward. It's different.
It's, well, yeah.
That's how it's going forward, because it's reconfigured and different. So, but again, it's a matter of what is the motivation. It is very similar to the whole redistricting phenomenon that's sweeping the nation. So just call a thing a thing. Whenever you see and hear that word, it does mean the same thing. I used to study etymology a lot years ago, and the guy that I learned from, Mark Benil, he said, if it sounds alike, it is alike. And that really helped me to understand a lot of words that sound alike. If it sounds alike, it is alike.
Well, I was just
we can
trying
just
to
start
give
from
them the
there.
benefit of the doubt
No,
and
you
say...
can't do that.
Well, I tried, but I failed.
But that's a moral, that's an aspirational moral desire to give anyone the benefit of the doubt, but that doesn't factor in the current political climate, apparently.
We are a freer society if we have 7 districts than if we have 5 districts because we're not only a community of districts, we're a community of neighborhoods. And by taking away 2 districts, you're taking away the ability for a smaller group of people to have a voice in the issues.
I'm going to give you a good example. Kentucky's a good example. Kentucky is not a large state, but they got just how many counties in the state of Kentucky?
121.
120.
They
And
only manage 4 million people, 5 million tops.
Right.
So why you can reduce Kentucky down to five counties easy.
Well, somebody
Try
wants
that.
to do that sometime.
Right, try that one. They can do that one, then I'm for it.
I really like what you said, Rabbi Miles Stanley, because you used the word neighbors. We're neighbors, neighborhoods. And there was a famous Rabbi, Joachim Prince, who said on the comment of love thy neighbor, that neighbor is no longer a geographic location,
Right.
it's a moral imperative.
That's it. I love
And,
it.
Like
and,
that.
and I think that, I just think that is so true,
Right.
and something that in all the issues of redistricting locally and nationally.
And
we
you can
need to
apply the
remember.
same ethic doing to others as you have them doing to you.
Exactly.
Love thy neighbor. You can apply the total ethic to that term right there. Be a good place to start and end.
Neighbors of the world.
Well, this conversation, just like this, has been happening for 75 years here on this television station.
I'm
it-
sorry, it's not a moral, it's no longer a geographic term, but a moral imperative. It's a moral concept.
Right.
I misquoted him.
Okay.
Neighbor is no longer a geographic term, or is not a geographic term, but a moral concept.
Interesting.
I'll agree both ways. I'll take it.
Yeah,
either way.
I don't even know if there's that much of a difference. Sorry.
all good. All right. And we get it right on the show as well. So,
Sometimes.
so yes, 75 years. Father Joe Graffis started in 1985. 41 years on the show. For more than half the show, you've been on this.
I was sweet, young, and innocent.
Double your salary.
I did.
what color was your hair?
Different color than it is now.
Clay, Reverend Clay Calloway, you came on in 2004, 2005, 22 years on the program.
Yeah, well, time flies when you're having fun, right?
And Sally, you came on in 2009, 2010. You've got 17 years on the
Wow.
program.
It has gone fast.
Stan, 1996, exactly 30 years on the program.
Wow, Stan.
And Galia, early 90s, more than 30 years on the program.
I think it was 92.
92.
Not-
So we got, that's 34 years. So nearly 150 years of experience
Are
sitting
you
at this
counting when
panel.
I was a sub when Dr. Waller was ill
Right.
or not able to go to the doctor? Because I started earlier, but I wasn't a regular panelist. And in
I think
those
the first time
days-
you're on the show.
the first time. Okay, then that was earlier.
Yeah.
I'm so old.
Would that have
I
been
remember Dr. Waller well,
80?
and several
80,
people.
I think maybe 1990 was my first show.
When did Herbert pass?
Oh, 93 maybe.
Anyway,
So just some of the things that you've probably discussed on the show. Let's go back to the 1950s when it started, the Korean War, the Cold War. 1960s, we had the assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, moon landing, Watergate, moving into the 70s, Roe v. Wade in the 80s, the fall of the Berlin Wall, Gulf War in the 90s, September 11 attacks in 2000s, COVID-19 in the 2020s. Then Louisville specific, we tackle a lot of the local stories here. It's made this show what it is today. The segregation of the 50s, the civil rights movement in the 60s,
busing in the 70s.
busing in the 70s, the aftermath of the 78 blizzard, the rising violence and drug concerns in the 80s, Standard Gavir shooting in the 1990s,
I
right
remember
across the
that.
street from us. The church abuse allegations in the 2000s, the Yum Center and opioid crisis of the 2010s, and then the Breonna Taylor protest recently. This show has covered a lot of stories over the past 75 years that have been instrumental to this community. Just like we talked about at the beginning of the show today, we always tackle the top story of the week that the news is presenting locally. Your thoughts on your time on the show and what it means to the community and what it's meant to you?
Well, I think of a couple of things, and especially given recently some of the debates between our president and our Pope Leo. And Leo has pointed out, I think that, from my standpoint, I preach the gospel or I preach the scriptures. And I think sometimes people limit morality to personal ethics, or sometimes some people only think, well, the only one that's important is sexual or gender ethics, rather than saying every policy, war and peace is a moral issue. And I think, and we've lost a sense of that. So I'm very grateful for this show, especially the diversity. We all become friends, and we've learned a lot from each other, sometimes because of people's different experiences from different parts of the city and different religious traditions, perhaps. And I think of all times, our country really needs to have a moral focus. Now, morality is messy. Human experience is messy. So it's not always, some people want clear-cut, absolute answers. And as a person with moral theology background, it's like different values come into play, and you've got to weigh those values sometimes. What's the best thing to do? What's the right thing to do? And laws are very important, but laws are not the end. Sometimes it's the morally right thing to say that's an unfair law, or that shouldn't be applied, or that excludes people, or whatever it might be. So I think it's been important for groups like this to get some of those values out. And I'm amazed how many people hear the show over the week. Excuse me for going slow.
No. I think that one of the most important things that this show has done on radio and then television, or also continuing radio and adding television, is role modeling civil discourse. Because I remember, especially back in the early 90s, a lot of differences of opinion and how to respectfully disagree with someone, how to really actively listen to what they're saying, and how to consider that, not necessarily being persuaded by it, but the fact that we could come together week after week after week and with great respect consider all the issues from our own faith traditions, from our own personal opinions. I mean, I remember the first time Sister Eileen Egan of blessed memory, she was the first woman on the show. And the first time, but she was only on once a month because the Catholics rotate. I don't know why the Jews didn't get to rotate every week. But the first time we happened to be on the show at the same time, it's like, oh, lightning's going to strike, whatever. But it was bringing different opinions, and I have learned a lot. And the fan mail, which is not always fan, some people are, emailing. Once email came about to say exactly why I was wrong on what I said, which, I appreciate hearing their opinion and writing back. And to me, and as you said, especially, I mean, I always thought it was important, and it always seemed more and more and more important, but especially today, that we can sit down and, sometimes we break bread together, not on the show, but, get together various times, especially with Crusade for Children and the grant hearings, and people who I have never agreed with on the show on hardly anything, when we sit around the table trying to make those difficult decisions of who gets how much money from Crusade for Children, finding support and alliances that I would never, sitting here, have believed. But it's in part because we always can work together to try to do what's right. And if people take nothing away from 75 years of this show. I think that is, if not the most important, one of the most important aspects of respect, not just tolerance, although nowadays I think I'd settle for tolerance. I remember getting in a fight, a disagreement on air with Dr. Slider, not John, but his father, Bill Slider.
His dad.
And he was talking about tolerance and this and that, how he tries to be and I said, I don't want to be tolerated, like some horrible thing, but I can tolerate it. I want all people to feel respected. Mm-hmm. But in 2026, I'd be happy with more tolerance.
And it's amazing how over time the moral standard changes. Mm-hmm. I was thinking over time. One vivid memory was during the era of George W. Bush, mm-hmm. and the language he used to describe himself. He used the word, I'm a compassionate conservative. When's the last time you heard that term? So that probably was born and died with him. But you don't hear that term at all, even remotely used in public discourse.
You're right. Like not even from the Lincoln Project.
Absolutely not. So the language changed. Of course, Dr. King, he's always been a perennial moral compass over the years. He would use the term like we could choose to disagree without being violently disagreeable. Right. Mm-hmm. He famously used to say that. That was his whole argument in the famous letter from the Birmingham jail. He was really arguing with another religious body, Baptist pastors down in Birmingham while he was sitting in jail. He was arguing from a moral position in jail and arguing why they were probably offbeat by supporting segregation. But he appealed to the moral center as the point of argument in his argument. But now, and we don't have a moral argument anymore. It seems like the whole moral compass has been just thrown out the window. We don't argue right, wrong, or conservative, or the poor conservative ideology was a casualty of this latest political discourse. They may say conservative, you don't mean it anymore. So even they were a casualty now of the current political climate. So a lot has changed, and civility was one of the first things to go out the door.
I remember when I first came on the, sorry.
I'm finished, good.
When I first came on the panel, it seemed that the discussion was all about abortion. And, I thought it was good that a female voice could be heard during that discussion.
Absolutely.
I also think it's important that what's going on today, because women's experience in the church is not the same as the male's experience in the church. Although they try to tell us it's the same, it really isn't. And so to hear that other side of over half the population and what the population may feel about that, I think is really important. And if you tune into this show, you're going to get that aspect locally of how we're feeling about what's going on, not only in our state, but also globally and nationally. So it gives us that sense of depth about what is, as Joe said, in between war and peace. How do we wrestle with those topics between war and peace, and how can we come out to some sort of hopefully positive conclusion?
I think we need to also thank WHAS.
Absolutely.
For providing this safe and welcoming space for all of us from a variety of religious traditions to come together and just talk with respect. I'm reminded of words from the psalmist that we sing a lot. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good and how pleasant it is when people dwell together in understanding.
In unity.
That's Psalm 103.
Yes, but also...
absolutely.
I was editorializing.
No. It's a beautiful translation. I was adding on to it. I think that's...
I think Clay made a good point about language. It's like even the words progressive and conservative. One of my professors in the seminary a long time ago said a good conservative, and he meant this in a religious sense, is someone who wants to preserve the best in the tradition. It doesn't just mean conserve for any reason, whatever. And of course, progressive means we need to evolve. That may get some people upset, but we need to progress to say there's new situations. AI, for example. You know, what is all the moral implications of that, or many type of thing? We've never dealt with that issue before, and what implications of that. So we need to conserve the best values, and we need to progress as a society. And how do we balance all of that out?
You know, one of the things lately I've been reading is Wendell Berry and some of Wendell Berry's work, and how he talks about how we deal with loss. Because over and over again, all we're dealing with is a sense of loss. And how do we help people cope with that different sense of loss? And he does some beautiful writings on just that aspect. Of course, loss is also giving away to something new, and our fear of whatever that new might be. So I'm saying Wendell Berry has become the new prophet, or my new prophet.
One obvious loss is most on this panel, we used to have black hair, now it's no longer. So we've all experienced real.
No, we have some younger. I mean, there's more panel members than there ever used to be.
Yeah, and we have a diverse mix here.
And I think Gail already brought out about we all are part of the advisory board for the Crusade for Children, and that's a very interesting experience. I've learned a heck of a lot about so many different issues that deal with whether it's education or hospitals or whatnot, and yet it's always amazing how, as diverse ideas as we sometimes have, it is amazing how often when we have to make some final decisions, we compromise with each other and come to consensus rather quickly because of respect.
And when you consider all the good that this kind of civil discourse, this kind of respectful give and take and questioning and learning brings, that we share with whoever's watching or listening, creating Crusade for Children, which came out of Moral Side of the News, is just an amazing, all the good we've done in the largest independent telethon in the entire country.
And the cake made it.
And the cake made it. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So,
We're so glad that the cake
special
made it.
thanks to Nathan Fessel, who created the new open graphics and looks for us, and our director, Phil Dunaway, of course, Don Lee with the Crusade, and all the Crusade staff. Kelly Loxton, who got this cake from Heitzman's Bakery for us, who's a loyal fan of the show and loves listening to you all each week. So thank you to them.
Can they zoom in on the cake?
Yes, we'll get a cutaway.
Sorry.
Cutaway and a cut.
The director, Phil, is not going to be happy with Director Galia trying to take over the show.
Just so impressed with the cake, want to make sure people can see it.
Thanks to our panel this week. Sorry to cut you off short. Reverend Clay Calloway, West Louisville Ministers Coalition, Father Joe Graffis, Archdiocese of Louisville, Reverend Sally McLean, Christian Church Disciples of Christ, Rabbi Stan Miles of Louisville Mountain School, and Rabbi Emerita Galia R. Rooks with the Temple. It is Crusade season. We're all sporting our Crusade buttons. You can go pick one up at many of your local banks and the county clerk's office as well as selling them. So thank you for enjoying this show with us, and thank you for WHS Radio and WHS Television for allowing us to be a part of your life every Sunday morning. Thank you.